but it was still like very everyone trying to capitalize on like that screamo scene that just became very, I don't know,
Fucking stupid and annoying. Welcome, everyone, and this was The Scene, the podcast that takes a look back at the late 90s, early 2000 punk scene. I am your host, Mike Doyle. Before we start, go follow my Instagram. It's This Was The Scene. Just go on Instagram and put that in. That's where I post the most stuff about this, so if you want to keep up to date on what's going on or when interviews are coming out or not coming out, go follow that and tell your friends. Great. Prawn was formed in 2007. In 2011, they released their first full-length album, You Can Just Leave It All. The band followed up this release with other releases including Ships, Kingfisher, Run, and some singles and splits along the way. I got into this band years ago when Kingfisher showed up in like Spotify somehow, and I just fell in love with this band. These guys are like have a very Midwestern emo sound, but not like, but it's just, I don't know, it's just like pops more, I guess you could say. You'll have to go check it out, but go listen to Kingfisher. It's a fucking great album. And then go check out all their other albums because these guys are really fucking good. And these guys do fall a little bit outside, I guess, of the description of what this podcast is. But I did say last year when I started this thing back up that I was going to start talking to some bands that fall outside of that, just from bands that I absolutely love. And I'm still reaching out to some. It's not going to be like all the time, but I don't know. It's like I want to have fun with this and I want to learn about some bands that just seem to disappear and I want to know what happened. And these guys definitely fall into that category. So I reached out to them on Instagram and I got connected with Kyle and Andrew and got them on the Skype. And this is what we chat about. Good bands from their hometown of Ridgewood, New Jersey, basement shows, the band Moving Mountains, Top Shelf Records, Charlie Wagers, Andrew leaving the band, Yuengling First as Tragedy, Second as Farce, the song fucking shreds, Playing Audiotree, and a ton more. They're playing a couple shows this fall, so go check them out September 6th in Sommerville, Massachusetts, September 7th in Ridgewood, New Jersey, September 29th in Philly, and at some point the weekend of Fest. All the info is on their IG page, which is Prawn Music. Lastly, I started doing whiteboard animations. I also do explainer videos and logo animations. So if your marketing department has recently said, hey, that Mike Doyle guy is pretty cool, we should hire him to fucking animate for us, then email me at mike@drive80.com. If you have any inquiries about the podcast, you can just email thiswasthescene@gmail.com, and that'd be great. That's all I got to say, so feel free to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with anyone who would love some punk rock nostalgia. With that said, let's get started. Real quick, just say your name and just say your name so people can understand who's talking at what time.
Got it.
Gotcha. Just like right now?
Yeah, so Kyle, you can just say, hey, I'm Kyle.
Hey, I'm Kyle.
Hi, I'm Andrew.
All right, perfect. I always forget to do that in the beginning of interviewing two. It's rare that I interview two people at the same time, but I always forget to to do that at the beginning so people know what the fuck, who's fucking talking. The whole structure of the podcast is going back to the late 90s, early 2000s punk scene. And I've been doing it for 6 years, and I got a little burned out last year and took like a 6-7 month hiatus. And when I came back, I was like, all right, I'm still going to do that structure, but there's going to be bands that fall a little bit outside of that structure, but I just want to personally interview them. So I think there's some crossover a little bit, because I'm guessing maybe there's some bands from that era that you guys have that you liked, but just for me personally, I'm excited to like interview guys, because I found you guys through Spotify a couple of years ago, because Kingfisher popped up, and First as a Tragedy, Second as Farce has been in my playlist for fucking ever. All right, so I'm gonna start talking to you, but I also see that you guys are from Ridgewood, New Jersey originally.
Yeah, so Andrew speaking. Tony, Jamie, and I went to middle school. I mean, we grew up together. We went to middle school and high school together. Tony knew Kyle, I think, through our high school guidance counselor, Basil Pizzuto. Is that right, Kyle? You guys were working at like some kind of pseudo fair thing.
Yeah, we had a summer job together. Yeah, that's how we met.
So did you guys go to Ridgewood High School?
We did. So Kyle's from 2 towns over, Saddlebrook, but we went to Ridgewood High School together.
I'm from Jefferson originally. It's by Sparta, like Rockaway area.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Yeah, West Jersey. Yeah.
So I used to be in a band in the punk band. That's why I got into this whole thing. But I dated a girl from Ridgewood. She was like my first love, and so she went there. Do you know that last name Rourke at all?
That name does kind of sound familiar.
You would know Emily Rourke. You might know Caitlin Rourke.
Ooh, yeah, that name sounds very familiar.
Okay.
Tony and Jamie might be the ones to ask that. I'm terrible with names.
How old are you guys? Well, actually, how old are you
sure.
guys? Because that actually might this might be completely pointless if there's a huge age gap.
No, we're Tony, Jamie, and I are just about 35, and Kyle's just a few years younger.
Yeah, I'm 33.
Okay, so maybe Caitlin would have been one, but yeah, I mean, when I saw that, I was surprised. I didn't know you guys were from Ridgewood, so when I was reading up on the bio and everything, I was like, holy shit! I used to like go there all the time, and like I didn't go to any parties, but it's a very rich town there.
Yeah, it is, and a lot of good bands and musicians have come out of Ridgewood.
Yeah, like who? Who else has come out from there?
Titus Andronicus, they had a band called Seizing Elion. And so our high school would put on like these open mics where a bunch of bands would play. Titus Andronicus, like one of their first bands, would always play the open mics at Seizing Elion. And they were sick. They put on a really good show. Now they're a huge band. Real Estate is also from Ridgewood. They were just like a few years older than us. We played one of their like first shows in like a weird yoga studio that our friend Cameron Wish, whose dad I think owned it, and Cameron went on to play with like Raw Riot, Porches. I think he does a bunch of things with like Sheer Mag once in a while, and then he was in this band called Sen that he started. So like Ridgewood has like a really great music scene that has grown over the years. I'm very fortunate to like be a part of.
That's wild. Yeah, I was going to ask you about the scene because the scene that I grew up in, it was more the Fat Records era, and that led into the whole post-hardcore and bands that came out like American Football and Mineral and Knapsack, which have I feel like you guys have a sound that's similar to that, but you've progressed from what they were. Were there any bands from that era that you guys listened to growing up?
Well, I mean, there was also the whole New Brunswick scene as well for a little bit, that whole basement scene down at Rutgers. I mean, I know for me, I don't think I really got too involved in a lot of the scene when it was, I didn't get a chance to go see a lot of those bands or anything like that. But when I was a bit younger, I think I can speak for all of us. We were really into bands like Thursday, stuff like that.
It's okay if the answer is no.
Yeah,
I think of like other examples.
I think we definitely came up in this weird time period of kind of the end of Drive-Thru and Victory Records, but like New Jersey, especially North Jersey, the music scene, like our high school had some open mics, and then we would do some like smallish house shows with friends. But for the most part in the area, it was like a lot of the BFW halls, old churches, but it was still like very everyone trying to capitalize on like that screamo scene that just became very, I don't know,
fucking like, stupid and annoying.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Like I think we played a few of those shows and then started at one point to like dip our toes into the thing where like you have to sell X amount of tickets to play or get a specific spot, but it's also like competitive. And I remember like we showed up to one of those shows and we saw like these bands pull up in like school buses full of people that they were bringing, and it just felt very kind of fake. And I'm pretty sure we just left before pulling into the parking lot and just being like, this is not what we want. And so that's when we started getting like even more heavily into like DIY stuff of like booking our own shows, in which like at that point I think we relied heavily on MySpace for that, or what's that website, like Book Your Own Fucking Life. I think we used that a bit.
Do they have a website for that or just the book?
They did a few years back. They did.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay, I've never heard someone say that.
I doubt it's still around. Yeah, we did use that a lot.
Let's go real quick into, I want to talk about how you guys both got involved in the scene and how that led to the band forming.
Yeah. Tony, Jamie, and I grew up together. And I just remember one day in middle school, Tony came up to me and was like, you play guitar, do you want to start a band? And we were just like fucking around, fumbling over our guitars and just like playing. Jamie started playing drums with us, and Prawn was just kind of like this thing we came up with in high school. I don't exactly remember where the name came from. I'm pretty sure we were just like just like stoned high school kids and came up with a name and didn't really think about it, and we just started playing music more. And at one point we were just like playing with a bunch of different friends, and like Prawn would just like ebb and flow in and out. And then we started playing again. I think right before Kyle joined the band, one of our friends was like, "Oh, Prawn is back," and we're like, "Let's just keep that band name." And then Kyle joined, and we started playing more shows. And then we all went away to college, which I guess, Kyle, you were maybe senior year of high school at that point.
Yeah.
And we all went to college. We all kind of hated our first year. And so we took like a semester or two off to be like, let's just play some music. Like, we really like this. Let's just see where it goes. And from there, just kind of, snowballed into what it is today.
What year was that?
2007, 2008 is like when we started getting a little bit more serious about it.
Yeah.
I think.
I don't know if this would have any effects, but the whole bank crisis thing going down, did that have any effect on you guys maybe leaving college or the band, like playing shows? Did that trickle down to the scene in any sense?
Not that I recall. I went to Rutgers and I just hated going this. First I went to school for like communications, just like some bullshit thing. And I didn't really think about it. It's like, I hate this. And I don't really think that like housing crisis or anything really played a role, so to speak. And at that point, we didn't really start touring until like 2009. Like, we would try to book some shows or like play some local stuff. So I don't recall that being a big issue. Yeah. Do you remember, Kyle?
No, I don't think so. I think we were still just a bit young, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for me, I'm a couple of years or a year younger than the guys. So when I was in my senior year of high school, I think is when you guys took a little bit of time off in college. So I don't think that really affected or that really caused any of it at all.
Yeah, it seems like in the last couple decades, it was anything that affected music would be 9/11 was a big thing, obviously. So that had a big disruption. I remember I was talking to one band. There's a band called River City High, and their record came out, I think, like the same day as 9/11, something crazy like that. So they're like, yeah, so that kind of fucked record sales a little bit. And,
I could imagine.
Slightly.
I think because we had started pretty early, moving away from the VFW stuff and doing more DIY basement shows, I don't think we really felt it as much as we probably would have if we were like trying to do actual venues or larger scale tours. So I think we're lucky in that regard. And honestly, those like early days of those tours, even though like, sometimes we'd play in front of no one or like 5 people, or our very first tour was wild like that. We met a lot of great bands that I think we're still friends with today, or like people that we had met in those bands that continue those friendships and have grown, or like were able to support one another as success or whatnot in whatever scale that is. Those basement shows were really valuable, I think, as like building blocks.
That's crazy because so the scene, like I said, late 90s, early 2000s, the Legion Hall that was where all the DIY stuff was happening. Everyone was going to there, and it wasn't this big pay-as-you-play bus loads of people come in until a little bit later. It's weird it just progressed to that. And then you guys went kind of backwards and brought it into basements. That's just so intriguing to me.
Yeah, because I just think, we were really big into like, American football, the Appleseed Cats, Texas is a Reason, like bands like that. A lot of those VFW shows, they were still very like screamo pop punk, and everyone was still kind of dressing the same way, or like a specific way. It was just like a very different feel. And like we definitely, I think, not like we stood out a bit because we weren't playing that style of music, but we were playing those shows. And we definitely played a bunch of shows, like a lot of hardcore type shows at one point, I remember, just like being thrown in on these random bills. So we just tried to move away from that a bit to find more like bands. And like luckily MySpace at that time was still thriving and you could do that. And like I just remember would be on MySpace till like 3 a.m, just like clicking through those like top friends lists or like comments and just finding bands and listening and like be like, oh, this like community exists way beyond just like North Jersey, and then it's like smaller bands like that or like interested in meeting other like bands. It was very valuable and very interesting. From what I recall.
And even just like, when I was at least for me, when I was in high school, I was playing in a band in high school, but then when I met Andrew, Tony, and Jamie, and we started playing together, then we kind of just had a bunch of different friends kind of just come all together that were playing a bunch of music. And there were times at some of those basement shows, our friends would put one together and it would just be all of our friends that happened to play in bands. And then from there, it kind of just expanded.
How would you guys promote those shows? Did you do printed flyers, or was it just MySpace digital flyers?
I don't even remember, to be totally honest. Might have just been, I think a lot of it started off with just word of mouth, I guess.
Word of mouth, maybe texting, yeah, whatever like texting was on those like earlier non-smartphones. I guess Facebook a little here and there too, when it was still like just high school and college kids, which was, they should have never changed that.
Yeah, I know.
But I think maybe we did like a flyer here and there, but for the most part, yeah, I think it was just word of mouth and it would just spread.
Did you guys actually buy physical music at that point, or were you just downloading?
I
did
both.
for a while. I don't know if I was at that point, but prior to that, I was really into buying music, like just CDs, and having a CD collection. But I think at that point, that was like the height of downloading free music, or like maybe towards the tail end of it.
I think Pandora was pretty big around that time, and Spotify, I don't think it was happening yet.
Yeah, I remember finding a lot of MediaFire links.
Yes.
And that would be like my main source of downloading. I was never big into torrents. Like I just never did it. But I feel like if you were just searching online long enough, you would find like someone posting in the form of a MediaFire link to something and just get a lot of music that way.
I remember there being a bunch of cool blogs that would just share a handful of new records that were out, things like that. I wish I could remember the name of some of those, but
like Absolute Punk.
Yeah, but even some more obscure ones. Again, I wish I could remember the names of some of them, but I remember going to a lot of those websites and even, looking for a band's record that I heard that I had already known, or even just finding new music that way.
Yeah, I remember I would go to there's a website that was like Jade Tree Family Tree, and like being blown at like, seeing like all these members being a dozen different bands. And then from there, finding other forums or like comment boards where someone would be like, oh yeah, listen to this, they were in this, and so on and so forth. But I think we would purchase CDs when we would go to shows of others, or like trade CDs often, a lot of trading when playing shows with bands that we like. At that point, there was a Tower Records by us growing up, and that eventually closed down. I think it stopped going to like Borders or Best Buys for music.
I guess that's what I was trying to get to, is what record stores were you guys going to, or if that, because there were some local ones. Sound Exchange in Wayne is still open. I don't know if you guys ever like went there, but things like that.
Yeah, actually, I used to live a couple of years back. I used to live a little closer to that. That's the one on
23,
right off the highway, right? Yeah, they're still going strong.
It still smells the same. It's gross.
Yeah, going to Rutgers, I would go to Princeton because I had a housemate that worked at Princeton Record Exchange, and that place still rules. It's a very good record store. And then there was one on Route 1, which I think closed down 3 years ago. I can't remember the name of it.
Vintage Vinyl?
Yeah, Vintage Vinyl. And that was a really good record store.
Yeah. Did you guys ever go to Flipside in Pompton Lakes?
No, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, they just there's a documentary releasing about it right now. It's wild. I didn't even know it was open anymore. So I'm seeing that False Institutions is the first thing you put out before you get on Top Shelf?
Yeah.
So, wait, why'd you laugh?
I don't know. It's just funny to think of that album to me. We recorded that was it Union City? I forget the place.
It was Union City. It was what's the name of the recording studio? Canon Foundation, something like that.
Yeah.
Canon Sound.
Okay.
The guy who owned the studio was Jesse Cannon.
Yeah, we recorded that there.
Probably about 2008, 2009.
Yeah, I think it was 2008, maybe.
It says
maybe 2009.
Discogs says that was put out in 2009. No, not on a label.
Yeah, no label. We paid for ourselves. I think we did less than a week there. It was just a few days of recording, and then we got CDs made. We got some guy, I forget who made the album art, but it's a fox. Everyone thinks it's a cat.
I was going to say, what's with the cat?
So,
okay.
But yeah, like we would play on that record a bunch for like the next year, 2 years, and then we started demoing the newer songs when we started. Like we were very big into post rock at that point, like Explosions in the Sky like we loved. I think you could hear that a lot in that record, but we were still like listening to bands, like American Football or the Appleseed Cast, and that's kind of like what pushed us towards, I think you can just leave it all kind of sound, like growing out of that into this more kind of Midwest emo-y sound.
So between that and then 2012, it says Ships comes out. So that's about 3 years right there. Did you guys start touring did you guys start touring between that time?
Yeah, so let's see, we had False Institutions in 2009. I remember the summer of 2009 was when I think at that point during False Institutions, everyone was home or at least nearby in college. And so we had a lot more time to kind of get together and write music and play together, things like that. Then we did that record. And then summer of 2009 was our first like full, I think it was about a 3.5 week tour.
Yeah. We did our first, we did half the US, like the right side. So like, going up through Ohio, like our first date was in Pittsburgh. And then we went up through like Ohio and then like halfway to the Midwest down to like Texas and back. Yeah, I think that was a tour where like we met a lot of bands who helped us along the way from that point, or like grew up with, or like later would join other labels, and like we would just see throughout the life of this band. Like our first show ever, or not first show ever, the first show of that tour was in Pittsburgh, and we played with this band Ape Up from Boston, and their drummer is the drummer from Algernon. And so like we would just cross paths with them a bunch like throughout the following years, and like so on and so forth with like other bands. I think we played with Empire on that tour too, Count Your Lucky Stars. I think that's when we also maybe met for Hours and Hours and Carlos on that same first tour. It was just like those shows were rough because of our first kind of big tour. And so no one really knew us, but we were just like so hungry and driven. Like it didn't really matter if there were like no one at the show or whatever. We were just like so stoked on playing, and like we were just meeting these amazing bands and people that it just like really kept the momentum going afterwards.
What were what were shows like around that time? I mean, now I could see stuff on YouTube where it looks like there's a real, like it looks like it's a really good scene out there. I always felt like it was just kind of like, not the dark ages, but it was just kind of like not as exciting in this time period of 2008 to, I don't know, 15 maybe, 14.
Well, that tour, I remember there being, I think there were some venues in there that we played, but a lot of it were like house and basement shows. I think the show we played in Texas was at a record store. So we did have a really handful of DIY sort of setups throughout that tour, which was honestly a ton of fun.
What would you sell? Like, how would you make money if you couldn't sell CDs, if no one was buying CDs, just shirts?
Yeah, I think, did we have shirts at that time?
We did have shirts.
I think we did, right?
Yeah. We definitely sold some CDs as well. Yeah, mostly shirts, maybe like stickers, which, they're like $1, so it wasn't really doing much for us. It was definitely a tour we didn't make money, but I think in those early days, we weren't really thinking too much about the money. It was like, obviously we need money for gas, and that was like our goal for the most part. It's like get gas money and then just have the rest of the money for beer and just make sure we get from point A to point B alive. But we just wanted to play the shows. And I do recall those basement shows. The basement scene, I think, in North Jersey we had our bubble of friends, and we'd put on shows together. And those would be fun. But I don't recall there being like a lot of basement shows in North Jersey. So like going beyond the East Coast and seeing more energetic basement shows or things like that were like really exciting. I think that's when we also played the Kling Thing House for the first time in Akron. And that was like, a staple of Ohio. And they had some like really great basement shows. So like it definitely varied from place to place. And obviously the closer you were to a college town, the basement shows were better. And I think that's true, like even still to this day.
So how does it lead to you guys getting on Top Shelf in 2012 and recording Ships?
So we did, in between that, after I want to say the first tour or two, because then for the next couple of years, what we would do is, every summer we would plan, 3-4 weeks and try and tour as much as possible for that. During that time is when we started to write the songs on You Can Just Leave It All, which was, I think, 2010 was when we started to write and record those songs. And then we actually had, so
we self-released that first before.
Yeah, we self-released that first, but through playing shows, we actually started to play shows with this band, Moving Mountains.
Oh, I love that band.
Yeah, so
great guys.
We connected with those guys early on and have since just become really, really good friends even to this day. So Greg Dunn, who was the singer in that band, was also, I think I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let me think. My timeline's all messed up here. But we met those guys and we actually recorded You Can Just Leave It All in one of their studios, one of their like home studios. And then from there, we self-released it. We actually, and Andrew kind of put this together too. We self-released it by making these like CD booklets. We were very ambitious with.
Wait, how'd you make them?
So they're like a CD booklet that I like cut, and I made everyone do this with me because like we made close to 200, and it was cut cardboard with an oval cutout in the front, wrapped in canvas with printed booklet, and then like the CD. I made everyone do this, but of course, to like, I don't know, tour was coming up fast, so like there was definitely, I feel like, a good 2 weeks of just being in the band while like gluing these things and stapling these things together while on like 6-hour drives and like while the glue's still setting, selling these like booklets. There's a picture of one online somewhere, I think on Tumblr I've seen. If I can find it, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, definitely.
For very much the first solid 5 years of the band, we're doing like a lot of DIY merch stuff. Yeah, we self-released.
They were cool.
Did you guys do that with like shirts? Did you print your own shirts? Did you pay for people to do those?
I think it was a mix. I definitely printed a bunch of t-shirts, but I think depending on timing and I think on money, we definitely got some t-shirts printed elsewhere as well. Like I know the shirts that we took on in Europe, our first Europe tour, we got printed somewhere. I don't remember where.
So when you guys get on Top Shelf, was this, I mean, it's not like they were this gigantic label, but they had a budget to give you money. I mean, you already had the album recorded, so how does that work?
So we kind of, once You Can Just Leave It All was done and recorded, and, we had the self-released CDs and things like that, then we had always really liked Top Shelf at that time. They were putting out some really cool bands. I know that we had kind of sent that record off to them, and that kind of started the partnership with Top Shelf.
Where are they based out of?
So Top Shelf was based at that time, out of Boston, I believe.
Yeah, they were working out of Bridge 9, that warehouse, I think.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, so when they were like, yes, we're going to release You Can Just Leave It All, they put it out on vinyl for us, which was like a very big deal to us. And then I think they helped with some merch, and then they would help with booking some tours. Like I think it definitely helped open a door up, or like, when you're trying to like I think we were still booking our own tours for the most part at that point still, even after, but they were definitely like just being attached to the name Top Shelf helped tremendously when booking shows. And then of course we would be able to do like some bigger things, Top Shelf showcases, for example, like at Suburbia was a big one, was at CMJ around that time.
Yep.
So or like in South by Southwest, like a Top Shelf type lineup thing.
How was it being in the band at that time? Were you guys stressed out at all, or were you young enough where you didn't care because you're like, oh, we live at home and we don't have to freak out about money?
I think we were just really excited. I think we were all still at home at that point. We were all just really excited to have, the record out. I think things definitely picked up from that point, as far as some of the tours we were doing, some of the shows, and then we were still kind of just riding that high, having fun.
The same year it says that you guys do put Ships out. Is that happen the same year, or was there like a year gap between the two?
So I think there was a year gap. I think You Can Just Leave It All was 2011 and Ships was 2012.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Does that sound right? Yeah.
Well, Discogs says 2012. But I'm guessing that's when you probably got signed, and then Top Shelf puts it out, and then you put out. So you had all that time to have that record on. The record had been recorded prior to that. You had all that time to be on it. Then Top Shelf picks it up, but technically 2011 is where that was done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was at least a year between the two.
Yeah, so when Ships comes up, I don't know, like, were you guys internally constantly writing, or did you write when you felt the label was like, hey, we need a release?
No, we were just always kind of writing. I mean, that was, I think even still now when we get together and practice or play some songs, it's always been that way over the years when we were playing together. You know, anytime we would practice for a tour, we would just naturally start to write something new, you know, and I think that's kind of when even back then, it was the same story where we'd practice for a tour. We would practice all those songs for You Can Just Leave It All. And then we just always had that inkling to write something new, you know. So during all that time is when we started to write those songs for Ships, you know, and that was a pretty quick turnaround, I think, for those 6 songs that we had, that once we had them completely written, that's when we really started to kind of set up a lot of equipment for us to be able to demo just at Tony's mom's house at that time, actually. And we would just demo a lot of the songs once we were finished writing them. And then for Ships, what we did was we actually said, all right, well, we have all these mics, we have all this equipment here. Why don't we just record these 6 songs here? So all the songs on Ships, we just recorded at Tony's mom's house.
Yeah, that was self-recorded. And I think Greg from Moving Mountains mastered it for us.
What was the setup for recording it? Did you guys have like a big board at all, or?
No, we had one of those little.
Were we using the PreSonus still?
It was a PreSonus. Yeah, it was a PreSonus interface, and then we had a bunch of like SM57s for the drums. Yeah. I forget what the kick drum microphone was. Yeah, we'd set it up in the living room actually, and then just mic'd all the drums, and then just used that. Yeah, that little. It was an 8-input PreSonus interface, and then we used. Wasn't Pro Tools. What's the other one? Logic Pro. Was what we used.
You guys are fucking DIY as fuck, man. I love it. This is crazy. We're like putting CD sleeves together with glue, and then we're drawing the artwork by hand.
Actually, well, now that you mention it, Andrew did draw the artwork for both the vinyl cover for You Can Just Leave It All and for Ships.
Yeah, I was definitely doing most of the artwork back then. Yeah, actually, You Can Just Leave It All has like alternate. The top shelf art is very different from our self-release art, which one day I'll push them to do the original. So we'll see.
I actually thought when the artwork came out for You Can Just Leave It All, I was like, oh, that's cool. It looks, obviously, I don't know what the cardboard one looked like, but I was like, it looked like they're like, okay, we're going to get a professional come in and do this. And then I don't know, it looks like it kind of set the tone for the visual direction of where you guys, every album that came out after that, it seems like it kind of followed suit.
Yeah, I think so. Then you started using Charlie Wagers, right, for a lot of artwork. Like Kingfisher, I think maybe was Charlie's first record. I don't know if that was like the first artwork he had done. Basically, Kingfisher was all Charlie. And then I guess the Settled EP, I think he's done like T-shirts and posters as well.
What's his name? Charlie what?
It's a good friend of ours, Charlie Wagers.
Is he still doing?
He does.
Is he pretty known now?
Yeah, or? he's still doing a bunch of stuff. He's
Oh wow.
Yeah, he's probably as busy as ever. I'm sure.
Jesus Christ! Yeah, his stuff's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, he's based in Chicago.
Wow.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's a fantastic artist.
Oh my
God. The stuff that he's done for us is incredible.
Holy shit! Okay, that's cool. So you guys are like one of the first things that he was doing art for, like band-wise.
I don't know about I'm actually not sure what his timeline is. I don't think so. But that was the first thing that he had done for us, I believe. You know, we kind of met him through a bunch of friends, just, you know, through touring and through other bands and things like that, and just really hit it off with him. So when we were ready to come up with artwork for Kingfisher, once that was kind of being recorded or already done recorded at that point, you know, Charlie was like the first and only person that we thought of to go to do this.
It's gotta be kind of cool. So I'm on his website, and his whole front page is just his artwork, and you guys are just a little ways down, and then you're about like just touching Dave Matthews Band, like some artwork he did for him. Like, damn, dude.
Yeah, Charlie. Yeah, Charlie's awesome. Charlie's work is incredible.
I want to buy all this shit. Real quick, if you're looking for an explainer video or someone to do motion graphics for your company, check out my company, drive80.com, and you can email me at mike@drive80.com for more info. That's all I got to say. So now back to the interview. So Ships comes out. What happens then? Do you guys find you're playing bigger shows? You out of basements and playing more clubs? Like, what does that look like?
We released Ships, And then on that release, we did our first European tour, which was like somehow like 45 days in like a 30-month period. There was like some doubleheader dates. It was kind of insane, that tour. But we went to Europe for the first time, and we went with this band Ape Up, who we had played on our like first tour that we met in Pittsburgh. So we went over together. Yeah, it was a wild tour.
Yeah, it was a long one.
It was a long one. And then I think like we got back, like we left, I think end of May, got back end of June, maybe early July. And then like a week after, we did 3 weeks in the States with this band Calculator from California. Yeah, that summer of 2012 was pretty wild, from like Europe to States tour. And then in that fall, I actually left the band for up until this year.
So Kyle got on Skype before you, and I was like, I don't see Andrew's name in any of Wikipedia stuff. And he said, yeah, you played Up to Ships, and then that was it. So I guess 2 questions. One, why aren't you on Wikipedia? What's your name on there?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not mad.
Yeah, Kyle, what's going on?
To be honest, I don't know either.
Actually, typically you can't make your own Wikipedia page. Someone else does it.
Yeah.
I'm okay with not being on Wikipedia, but if someone wants to do it, please don't.
I'm just gonna log in right now and fix this.
A notice to the author.
So what happened? Why'd you leave the band, or why'd you get kicked out? What was the story?
I was feeling really burnt out. I had a lot of personal stuff going on, and I just like couldn't keep up. I think I couldn't play that. We like were going to play Fest for the first time, and I couldn't. And everyone was rightfully so pissed at me. We decided to take a break. So like Kyle learned all my guitar parts. I don't know how or when, but Kyle apparently knows how to play all the guitar parts. So good on him. But yeah, Kyle stepped up, started playing guitar, which is till this day still plays guitar. And yeah, I think I played a show a few months after January of 2013, which was my last show. And then Kyle's just like taken over the guitar role ever since. Well, I mean, like Tony still plays guitar, obviously, but Kyle like took my spot as the guitarist, and then we had some bassists go in, which Kyle can talk about bassists. Yeah.
We and to be fair, I mean that summer was 2012. That was kind of when we were really just ready to go full time. I think everyone had either finished college or was very close to finishing college, except me, I think around that time. So we did the, 5.5 weeks in Europe, came home for maybe 10 days, and then did the 2-week tour for the US and Canada. Then I remember our van broke down in Canada that same summer. So actually, Andrew, Jamie, and I were stuck in Montreal for a week.
Which kind of ruled at the same time.
Yeah.
All we did was like eat food and walk around.
Not a bad place to stop. And what was cool was we had our friend David Mitchell, who plays in the band Golfer, kind of put us up and show us around, really, really helped us out there when we were when we were stuck in Montreal, which was really cool. Then we had that. And then just as Andrew said, we were gearing up when we came back. We were really excited. It was the first time we were going to play Fest.
Then Andrew drops the ball. No, I'm kidding.
Andrew I definitely dropped the ball.
Well, actually, it's kind of cool because if you go on your, and I'll bring up you guys playing a couple shows coming up, but you guys are playing Fest this year. So it's kind of cool, like full circle.
Yeah, which we're really, really excited about.
That's super dope. Yeah, I'll definitely talk about that later on because I've been at Fest one time and it was a lot of fun. Like up to this point though, what was touring like? Was it, I don't know, I mean, sometimes you can be on the road with like bands that are crazy and they're partiers, and sometimes it's really just back in the day it was you get on stage and be like, hey, we need a place to crash if anyone has one. Were you guys doing that at all?
Early on, definitely.
Early on, yes. Like Europe was fortunately stood up to a way where like we had, I guess, we were treated really well, and like we would have a place set up already to stay as part of like the show guarantees and whatnot. So that was like really nice, and we definitely partied in Europe on that tour because it's Europe. And then the US tours were a little bit different. I think we had some friends. We already made friends at that point. So like certain cities we'd already have kind of like places we could stay. And then there would definitely be once in a while where we would be on stage or after, we're like, hey, does anyone know a place where we can stay? Or we like find like a Super 8 to crash at for the night.
Yeah, definitely early on, we would always ask, we would always have to ask for a place to stay if anyone could put us up for the night. And then as time went on, we started meeting more and more people. Some people would put us up again when we would come through. The more friends that we made, the more places that we had to stay. And then, there were some nights where we would treat ourselves to a Super 8 motel.
Which I don't know if you can call that treating yourself.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you stay at any places that the people were just fucking weird, or any weird stories like that?
Definitely. I have to think of which ones I can share. We played a show in, I think, somewhere in Kansas. I don't know if it was Kansas City or it was somewhere in that general area.
It's definitely Kansas City.
Yeah, but we stayed at. I guess these guys told us that we could crash with them, and it was like a warehouse, and it was like 105 degrees outside all night. There was no air conditioning, and I think the place was like flea ridden. And so so that was one of the more difficult nights I remember.
Yeah, I think there was only a handful of times where we slept in the van. We're just like shit out of luck. We're like, well, I guess we're sleeping in the van.
Yeah, we have had to do that before.
That is the worst when it's hot as fuck outside.
Yeah, especially when you're 2 weeks into a tour and you're like, I don't know when I'm going to get away from this. when we're going to get away from this heat. We're just going to drive in at the next couple days.
How did you guys get along as a band internally, like on the road?
I think great, actually. I think there's only, what I recall on our tours, there was like maybe just a handful of times where we got into it, but it's really over stupid shit. So like it didn't really last or didn't turn anything bigger than just like maybe awkward silence for a little bit. But like we never really fought or anything.
No, yeah, for the most part, I mean, it was pretty good. I mean, I was the one who would get picked on. So because I'd had a short fuse. So sometimes I was I think that's probably the extent of it, but then it would be fine, 30 minutes later.
We'd also a little bit younger, so we like kind of treated kind of like a little brother.
Oh, that makes total sense.
It's like kind of picking fun.
Yeah.
So in the band I was in, me and my two other guitar players, and we were 5 years younger than our drummer, so we always just picked on him all the time. So it was just like total reverse.
We definitely did something similar. Where on that first tour we were talking about, we were all underage, and so we convinced our friend Wyatt to come on tour with us because he was 22, and so we picked him up from the airport because I think he was backpacking Europe. So we like picked him up from Newark Airport and just like immediately took him on this tour. So he could like help out, but mainly like to buy us beer and go on tour with us. So.
Did you guys ever get drunk before you played, or you always did you go up there non-drunk?
Yeah, I'm sure we did.
You have very technical guitar playing, so it's pretty impressive if you guys got a little lit before you played.
I feel like there's
bass
like
at the time, so it was a little easier.
Yeah, I feel like there's like a 2-3 drink comfort. And then, like, when you get beyond the 3, sometimes, things get real sloppy. But, like, yeah, we were definitely, like, just, like, super stoked to be essentially kids playing music. And we're, like, partying.
What was the difference between the Europe crowds and the States crowds? Or was there not one?
I think there was definitely some bigger shows that we did play at that point. I think it varied. Like, we played definitely some normal venues and, like, bars, and then we definitely got put on some weird shows. Like I remember being in Austria and they had booked what was maybe a children's singer. I don't know if you remember this guy, but he was like basically singing children's songs, and that was like a very strange show. And I don't think there was a big crowd, but we definitely played some larger shows that were like surprisingly large.
Yeah, and I remember on that tour too. It was I think because at times there were shows where it was just us and APA. Yeah, I remember sometimes that kids would just come out to the shows just because there was a show. Not even necessarily that they knew either one of us or knew any of the music. But yeah, it was just cool to see that kids would come out and just because there was something going on, Were
you guys freaking out a little bit when Andrew left?
Yeah. Well, yeah, a little bit. We had to figure out
abrupt.
What are we gonna do? It was pretty easy. I mean, I've been playing guitar my whole life too, even before that. So for me to
Kyle's actually a phenomenal he plays drums incredibly well and guitar incredibly well. So luckily, we're very fortunate for Kyle.
I was gonna say,
Yes.
like, you guys have you have very technical guitar parts, so you can't just drop the bass and be like, oh, I'll just kind of just figure this shit out. Like, you have to be pretty seasoned to play what you guys play.
Yeah, so I learned, playing music just by playing guitar. That was the first instrument that I ever learned. When I made that switch, it was kind of like going back to something I already knew, just learning all of Andrew's guitar parts, which was a challenge because it is technical, and sometimes you have to do the whole throw in one side of the headphone to listen to what that guitar's doing and figure it out. But yeah, and then we had to figure out, okay, are we going to play fests? At that point, how are we going to move forward? Who's going to play bass? Things like that. It was definitely a time where we had to kind of figure out a few things.
Did you ever reach out to Andrew to be like, hey man, sorry to bother you, but I'm really stuck on this song. Can you help me out?
I don't know if I did. I don't remember that.
I don't think so.
No.
Would you have taken the call if he did, Andrew?
Yeah, of course. I would have.
You're like, no, fuck those guys.
But I'm pretty sure Kyle played my parts better than I did, like in a more practical manner on the scale. So it's fun because, like, being back in the band for these upcoming shows and everything, relearning my guitar parts, like same way, like the one headphone on and off and figuring out, I'd definitely like reach out to Kyle and be like, hey, do you remember this tuning or is this right? So like,
yeah, how's that working now? You guys having 3 guitars up there?
So so far it's working really well. I think one of the things that made it easier was that once I made the switch to guitar, and once we started writing for Kingfisher, we actually have a lot of third guitar parts across that whole record. And we've kind of thrown in some third guitar parts just from there on out. So a lot of it's been pretty easy just figuring out, who's playing what for, those second and third guitar parts.
Yeah, and it's been a mix of like, if there's anything where a third guitar doesn't exist, I'll play Kyle's part or vice versa, or like Tony's part, and we just kind of like figure it out from there.
You just leave the stage and just hit the bar and be like, oh, gotta get back up there.
Take a breather.
You guys are doing great.
This is cool.
Andrew, when you left, and I want to get into their albums first, but when you left, did you feel like, what was that like for you when you when you didn't have a band anymore?
It was definitely strange. All we really would do was, if we were in school, we were just playing music or like practicing or touring. So it was definitely strange. And then I didn't really play guitar for 5 years. Like I would like pick it up and do a little round, but like I just like wasn't into it. And so yeah, I didn't really play. And then a friend convinced me to start a band. And luckily I'm glad I did, because I think it kept me up to chops, so to speak. Otherwise, I don't know if I'd be able to play these songs as we have been currently. So fortunate for that in hindsight. It was a strange period, but it feels really good to be playing with all of them again. It feels like riding. It kind of feels natural, like it's very easy, and I think surprisingly easy. Like how well the practices have been going, how organic it feels, and there's like a good chemistry between all of us, I think. And it's been nice to play with Kyle on guitar, because I don't think we've really ever played. He was always playing bass when I was in the band. So like playing with Kyle on guitar and messing around with new ideas while we're all on guitar has been really fun. I'm fortunate that they asked me to come back, and it's been like, yeah, it feels like that kind of same energy was like, I don't know, like a decade ago or however long it was.
So what was the decision? And I'm going to jump back to, but like, since we're like where we're at now, like what was it as a decision to reach out to him, Kyle?
Well, so when we stopped playing about 6 years ago, I mean, through that time we'd never said that we were never going to play again. And we had always toyed around with the idea of, yeah, we're going to play again at some point, but we'll just wait for the right time. I mean, a lot of us had life events happening where we needed to focus our energy kind of away from music for a little while. But when we would talk about playing again and coming back together and whatever we were going to do next with the band, we said we wanted to do it only if, Andrew would come back and do it with us. We wanted to make it fun. We got to the point where we toured a bunch. Everyone had their own things going on in their own life. You get a little tired, maybe not fully burnt out, but you get a little tired, need some time away from it. And, we wanted to do it again when it was fun again. And we wanted Andrew to be there for that too.
Unfortunately, the band continued to grow to a point where you guys were playing much better shows and tours when I was out in the band. So like I'm very fortunate to join the band where they still are at a much better place than they were when I left. So thank you guys for that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that leads into the whole Kingfisher thing because that's I don't know what the difference is in crowd size and popularity that you guys had between Ships and then Kingfisher. Well, I mean, technically, I think you did that split with Joie de Vivre. How do you say that?
Yeah. So our good friends, it's Joie de Vie.
Joie de Vie.
I think I'm saying that correctly. Joie de Vie.
Sounds better than the way I said it. So.
Yeah, really cool band. Good friends of ours from outside of Chicago, that general area. Yeah, really cool band. Actually, it's really funny. We so on that 2012 Europe tour, we just so happened to end up playing a show with them in, I think it was
Toulouse.
Toulouse? Yeah.
France.
Yeah. And hit it off with them, became really good friends, and then talked about doing a split together. And at that point, that was the first songs I think I played guitar on for the band, but kind of just, developed into that. So we put that split out, and then after that, we just, we started writing again for Kingfisher.
So when you guys do the video for Why You Always Leave a Note, is that happen before Kingfisher or after?
I think that was, let me think. That was before Kingfisher, but I'm trying to remember. I think we were writing Kingfisher at that time, or it was like the very early stages of writing Kingfisher at that time.
Was that kind of, I don't know, is that kind of crazy for you because you take over in guitar, you guys do these songs, and then you guys get to do a video at that time? Was that exciting?
Yeah, it was exciting, and it was just different too, because at that point I had gotten comfortable with playing bass, and kind of the writing style was entirely different to when I switched to guitar, where a lot of the parts, especially the when Andrew was in the band, a lot of the parts are very technical and catchy, and like it was kind of like can I write, like, how do I write like this? Like, how can I? It just gave me like kind of a different, I don't know, aspect to writing that was definitely a learning curve.
Well, did you find you were writing your own style, or were you trying to copycat the style you guys had for a couple of years?
No, I mean, I think I was trying to write in my own style for that. And a lot of that was working off of what, Tony was writing too.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard to give yourself permission because you already have a set established sound. But I feel like the sound that you guys have, you can get creative with it and expand on it, where if it was thinking like a Fat Records sound, like you can't really break out of that bubble. It's just do that, just fast with guitar riffs and stuff. It just, like, I feel like you guys, I feel like you could expand outside of what you were doing and get a little more, try to let yourself breathe a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
So I made a note because I've seen that video a bunch of times through the years. Was there is there a reason Yuengling was the beer of choice in that video?
I don't think so. I think it was just one that we had chosen to use.
I just remember seeing the video back in the day. I'm like, is that fucking Yuengling they're drinking in this?
Yeah.
It was just like one of those little tidbits I had to know. Yeah, I can't drink Yuengling anymore. I used to go to Hoboken. Did you guys ever go to Hoboken at all?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I actually live in Jersey City, so I'm right next to Hoboken.
Oh, shit. Okay. Yeah, I used to live in Hoboken, and we used to go to Black Bear on Tuesdays.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like $12 for a pitcher of beer and a bucket of 30 wings or something crazy. But they would be so slammed, so all the beer was Yuengling, so they'd have the Yuengling poured and lined up, so you get like a warm pitcher of Yuengling by the time it got to you. And I was just like, I can't drink that shit anymore. It's so gross. Where was that video filmed?
For Why You Always Leave a Note?
Yeah.
That was at Tony's house, actually. Tony's mom's house. That was where we did all of the. That's where we would practice. That's where we would do a lot of the recording, like for Ships.
Yeah, it's always been kind of like the home base ever since like high school.
Andrew, what were your thoughts when that video came out?
I thought it was great. I had left, but it was, they were pissed at me, rightfully so. But I like never was envious or jealous. Like I just always wanted them to succeed. So like I was like super stoked that they did it. I was very happy for them and like the continued growth.
Was that only played on YouTube, or did you guys were you on Fuse or anything like that?
Yeah, I forgot about Fuse and like all those channels. But no, I think it was just I'm pretty sure it was just YouTube.
It says 10 years ago it was uploaded 108,000 views. That's so crazy. All right, so then Kingfisher comes around. I don't know. Did you guys feel like you were on to something when you wrote that record?
We were all really, really excited with the way that record came out. We were really excited on the songs. I know, we all worked really hard when writing that record, especially Tony and Jamie. I know they worked really, really hard on writing that record too. But yeah, we were really excited. We all really liked the songs. And at that point, we just, we really wanted to just go for it, do as much as we possibly could as far as touring and all.
Yeah, I feel like you guys went to the UK either right before the release or like right after.
Actually, yeah.
What was that? Just a tour? Or?
Yeah, it was another European tour. I guess that was 2014. Yeah, so that year we toured a lot. And this is where it gets really kind of all jumbled for me, and I can't remember what tour is what. But I know that we did a full European tour then, and then I think a full US tour after that as well, like at that same time.
Were you doing, because you had I'm looking at your Instagram at the same time. So I have like tabs open. I've got Instagram, Wikipedia, YouTube, Discogs. I'm kind of jumping back and forth to see, kind of build a timeline here and ask questions around it. But your YouTube basically, I mean, I'm clicking on posts that are from 353 weeks ago. So, I mean, like this thing was basically following you through that time. So you can kind of see you got like, you went out with Hey Mercedes.
Yeah, that was really cool. So at that time, when Braid first came back and released that record on Top Shelf, they asked us to come out with them and open on that tour, which was awesome because number one is Braid, do rule. And those guys are also some of the nicest guys too. So we really hit it off, and we're extremely lucky enough to, when they came back and did their run as they did the Hey Mercedes run as well. We got to go out with them again, and it was just awesome to be able to tour with both of those bands.
Yeah, man, you can literally go through, I'm like scrolling all the way down through your posts, and you can see you got, again, I don't even know what fucking year this is because it just says 512 weeks ago. Well, it's got UK dates. It says public domain, and it's like 10/11, you're in Belgium, going through Germany. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you can't really, 15, 9/15? Yeah, I think this is 15. I can't even tell.
Yeah.
So, okay, so this is the one thing I had to know. That riff the beginning riff in First is Tragedy, Second is Farce. Who came up with that?
The noodly riff?
Yes.
Or I guess noodly. That was me.
Dude, that shit is ridiculous.
Thanks, man.
I love that riff so fucking much. It just sets the tone for that song, and then the fucking verse with the drums, like, bam, bam, it just I was like, where did they fucking come up with this? I love that song so much. I'm just gonna geek out right now. Just say that.
Thanks, man. So that song, that was that. So I'll bring it back a little bit too, because sometime I don't know, sometime maybe in between like 2010-ish, 2011, something like that, Tony and I had actually started like during the fall, just playing different music. He would basically come home for the weekends from college, and I lived at home during college, just commuted to college, so we would just start playing music together, where he would play guitar and I would play drums, and we ended up doing a record under a band name called Leaf Routines.
Okay.
Which was really cool. It was just like punk, fast music. I guess not like punk, but like fun, fast, like punky style music. And then that song, First is Tragedy, was initially like a song we were messing around with, where I was on drums and Tony was on guitar. I think the first time that he had played that riff. And then we were writing Kingfisher at the same time, so we kind of, turned that into the Prawn song. At that time, when we were writing for Kingfisher, it was the first time that we really had like a studio, like a practice space studio, which was awesome because we could be there until 1:00 in the morning if we wanted to. So, sometimes we would all finish work and get there at like 10:00 at night and then just stay there and practice and write forever.
Where was the studio located?
Studio was in, I think it was either Clifton or
Was that warehouse space where Mike Chem used to record or practice at?
yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but it could have been. Yeah, I forget the name of what they called it.
But you guys would go there and you could practice till 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, exactly. So you just sit there and just write. And I think I remember at one point I had nothing for that song, or not nothing, but very little for that song. And I remember it was one of those nights where I was just messing around because I would stop there sometimes just by myself and just listen to the demos and do stuff. And it just kind of happened just from screwing around and playing something.
When it came out, you were like, oh shit, oh my god.
I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
I mean, just the way the song's broken up is just, it leads in with that, and it's got this like bright, like just upbeat intro, and then like again that breakdown, like did like the drums doing that, and then when it goes in the chorus and it's got that bass just sliding all around, like it's like dipping in and dipping out of just, it's like a wave almost. I don't know. I just had to just say that out loud because
yeah, it's a fun one. It's definitely up there for me for one of my favorites.
It definitely stood out because the other ones, the rest of it, there's a little bit more kind of a moodiness to like the vocals, like the sound of the vocals. I think maybe I'm wrong in saying. And some of the songs. I don't know. Is that like the more upbeat song on the whole record, or are there any ones that I'm missing?
I mean, that's definitely one of them. I think it kind of ebbs and flows between like the upbeat ones and then a little bit, where we kind of all of the other releases where we're still all really big post-rock fans. So that definitely all still comes out in a lot of the stuff that we write.
Yeah, actually, because when I remember when I saw that, I never held the actual artwork. Actually, aren't you guys releasing that on vinyl? Is that
Kingfisher?
Part of it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, great, because I got really big into collecting vinyl last like 4 years, and because I've only seen it digitally. But I remember when I saw the artwork for it, it reminded me of what the first time I saw the Jealous Sounds. What the fucking record? Kill 'Em with Kindness. Did you ever listen to that record?
Not extensively, but I do know. Yeah.
Yeah.
The artwork just has this kind of tangible feeling to it. Like you can almost feel it in your hands as you see it. And that's what I thought of when I saw like the artwork for that. So again, just something I just wanted to put out there on.
Oh yeah. Okay. I get it. I'm looking at the artwork now.
So, okay, when that comes out, what's the response from people when that's released?
Well, I think it was generally good. I mean,
like, are you noticing it? Like, are you seeing it in the crowds? Are you seeing it in messages and stuff like that, and like shows you're getting on?
Yeah, definitely. I would say so. I thought, yeah, it seemed like we were getting really, really good response from it. We were definitely getting more tour offers, things of that sort. Yeah, it kind of just pushed us to, like I said before, just like go for it fully, do as much touring as we can. Luckily, we had some really good tours off of that record, and people seemed to really like it, which was just really cool because we were all really proud of that record.
What's your headspace at this point of how far you want to take the band and where you might think you're not going to be able to take it to?
We were still very much, let's see how much we can do. I think at that point, that was like the high point where there weren't really, at least for me, there weren't really thoughts of like, oh, how much more of this can we do? How much more of this can I do? It was kind of like, no, this is great. Let's go for it.
Well, I guess I'm thinking it's more of, you're in a band, like what's the pinnacle of where you can take it, right? Is it we want to play bigger clubs, we want to play arenas, we want to play stadiums, we want to make $1 million a year, we just want to make rent. It's like you kind of, because mentally you have to get to a place of what's going to keep you going and because you have to fantasize about the future and where you're going to go. Because if you're kind of like, it's going to really limit the years you have left.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I think we were all still really much, I mean, the goal of it was always to have fun. I guess also at the same time, you need to make sure that you can kind of support yourself and keep supporting yourself doing and playing music. But I mean, the main goal was that we were still having a ton of fun doing it.
Yeah, I feel like, coming back into the band now and the past like few months of the start of it when it was first thrown out to like where we are now, I feel like my perspective has just been about playing together in the music. And then like if there's opportunities that arise, like, yeah, who wouldn't want to play a stadium show? I'm not saying that's like going to happen tomorrow. Being open to those opportunities, but not necessarily being like, okay, this is our goal. We need to make X amount of money. We need to sell X amount of things or like do this and that. It's just more about playing the music and being together. And I think that has also been proven in the past that has led to like bigger things. And it feels better than like being like, oh shit, we need to make like $1,000 or we're fucked. Like, I think the band is technically self-sustaining so that we don't have to necessarily be in the red or worry about rent or food or whatnot. So that's nice. But yeah, I mean, you know, who wouldn't want to play bigger shows or like make more money from it? Sure, that's great, but that's like not the focus, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of how we felt, at least even at that time.
So there was never any pressure to take it to a certain point?
I think the pressure kind of came after Kingfisher. When we were writing for Run is when we really tried to focus in and we kind of put pressure on ourselves to keep it going and to, you know, write a really good record, but one that we still all really liked. And I think that was really kind of the first time that pressure really set in, at least for me.
Like in what way though? Like why? If you guys are doing this for fun and everything, is it just because you're getting a little bit older? Do you gotta, you know, is there like pressure coming down of, because at this point, what, you're in your late 20s?
We're in our late 20s, yeah. Let's think. Run was 2017. Yeah, so late 20s, you know, so that's when you start to think about, okay, well, in that context, you start to think about, okay, well, how much longer can I do this? And then also, specifically for me, I put a lot of pressure on myself writing, right? Like, it needed to be good. And for me, I had a lot of writer's block on Run at certain points that just kind of made me put more pressure on myself. So I think that was really the first time that it was becoming stressful, I guess, in that sense.
What are your thoughts on the difference or in between Run and Kingfisher? Like, what do you think is the better album?
Oh, it's like asking to choose your favorite child.
Well, you're going to have to.
I don't know. I don't know if I can.
I figure I would just ask.
I can let Andrew pick between the two, but no, I mean they're just different. They're different records to me. I mean, I love the songs on both of them, but yeah, as far as a favorite, I don't know if I could say.
I mean, some people will have a strong stance against records that they recorded that they like and they don't. I've definitely talked to people before. They're like, oh, I can't stand that fucking record. But there's more of it's about like they didn't have enough time or they weren't ready for it. Or I'm not saying this has to be your answer. I'm saying like just what I've heard in the past. But if you're digging both albums, then that's definitely an answer.
Yeah, just different points. I mean, if you had to squeeze an answer out of me, I'd probably say I would probably say Kingfisher edges it out personally. But again, I mean, you know, I just view them as different records and like a lot of those songs for different reasons.
So, Andrew, when those two records came out and you were listening to it, what were your thoughts at that time period?
I remember specifically when Kingfisher came out, because one, it was like, you know, the first release with, I guess you guys did some splits, but like the first full release. And I remember being really impressed because like it was such a big sound. It's such a good fucking record. And I actually did help make a website for them, like Kingfisher themed at that time. So like, you know, I think like I won't say bad blood, but like the friendships were like mending at that point. So like things were better. And yeah, I was like really stoked for them. And I remember like the tours they had lined up, being excited about it. So I really love that record and I love playing those songs right now. So leaning towards that as my favorite.
That's actually a good point because you're playing these albums for like the first time. So what's that feel like?
It's been really fun. Like I said, that album's really good and those songs are really fun to play. They've been patient with me to learn those things as I like fumble around. But yeah, I love it.
It's also been really cool just for me to hear, you know, because we've only ever played those songs. Well, very rarely did we play those songs with more than just two guitars. So it's really cool now to like, as we're going through and playing some of those songs, to hear it live with, you know, all three guitar parts for most of the time in those songs. It's really cool to hear.
Who did the artwork for Run?
Charlie Wagers.
Oh, so he came back?
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, I'm looking at it right now. Yeah. This guy definitely has a specific style. I mean, it's very broad, but God, I just got to keep saying how fucking good this guy's stuff is. It's fucking nuts.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, the work he does is awesome.
Very texture based. All right, so then what leads to you guys taking a pause until present day?
So we put out Run, and then we had some really cool tours. Like we did, we did our last European tour. We went out with, we opened for Flatliners, which was an incredible tour. It was a ton of fun. Those guys are also the best. I think around that time we did another full U.S. tour, and I think it was kind of like in the middle of that tour we kind of just got tired. We kind of realized that, like, okay, we had that tour booked, and then we had one last tour that was booked at that time with some good friends of ours in a band called Caravella. And then we kind of just decided at that point that we were going to do that last tour and then take a break and kind of figure some things out. Again, you get to that point where everyone has home life, starting to figure that out, jobs, school, relationships, things like that, which was kind of nice because it felt like we all collectively came to that decision. It wasn't just like one person or one event, that kind of caused all of that. So it just felt very natural, that once we finished that tour that we were just going to take a little bit of time.
Actually, there was a question I forgot to ask before I start wrapping this up. I saw you guys play Audiotree.
Mm-hmm.
What was that between? Was that between Kingfisher and Run, or when was that?
So let's see. We actually did Audiotree twice. We did one in between Ships and Kingfisher, so I think it was about 2013, and then we did another just after Run came out.
What is that like? I've watched a bunch of videos with them. Like, what is that like? Is it intimidating? Is it like, what's that whole experience like?
You definitely get the nerves at the very beginning. Like, as you're getting ready to set up and as they're ready to start recording and go live, it's definitely like, oh, okay. It's like, don't mess up. This, this is going to be recorded. Don't miss a wrong note. But honestly, it's so much fun. It's really just a lot of fun. You kind of, as soon as you get going, then it's like, oh, you just have a lot of fun playing those songs.
What do you do? Is it just like a small studio it's in Chicago, right?
Yeah. So they've got it's a studio in Chicago where it's basically just it's a giant studio room. They've got a control room and then the live room where you see all the videos that are recorded. Yeah, it's a really cool spot. Everyone that we've interacted there has been super nice and really, really fun to hang out with.
I've never done this. I've always wondered, are you allowed to do multiple takes if you fuck up?
Good question.
Yeah, no. So I don't know if you're allowed to, but we never have. Yeah, it's kind of just you go straight through.
You're like, maybe shitty bands have to, but not us.
Oh, no.
I'm kidding. Let's see here. With Fest, where do you know what club you're playing in or what stage you're playing on? Or can you not say that yet?
I don't know to either of those, actually.
Wait, I think we have it on a poster somewhere.
Are we allowed to
Oh yeah, that's a good question. I don't know.
that?
I know we announced we're playing Fest, but I don't know if they've announced, I guess, the lineup and venues yet. So I'll leave that to you, Kyle.
Have
you guys actually been to Fest without, obviously not playing it?
Yeah, we've played. We've played Fest, I think, maybe 3 times.
Oh wait, you did. You have played Fest.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, we played. So we played Fest, but this was after. This was without Andrew, so I don't think Andrew hasn't been to Fest. I think we played Fest about 3 times, and then there were a few times, maybe once or twice, that we played Gainesville just on a tour where we were coming through.
Well, cool, guys. All right, so before we wrap this up, is there a story that you've always wanted to tell that you've never told in an interview that you'd like to tell now?
Oh, I gotta think about this.
Yeah, I've got nothing.
It's a total loaded question where your brain is like, wow, do you have to go through 10 years or whatever?
I'm trying to filter through about 12 years of stories, seeing if anything sticks out or anything, I guess, appropriate to share.
Yeah, that's always the other one too. It's okay if you can't think of it.
Yeah, nothing's coming to mind at this point.
What was it like being on Top Shelf before I asked the last 2 questions? What were they like as a label?
They were great. I mean, they were always super supportive of us. You know, like I said, we were fans of the label before we even started working with them, before they put out You Can Just Leave It All. They've always helped us. It's been nothing but positive working with them.
Yeah, and I think coming back with like this reunion thing and 10-year anniversary of Kingfisher, like without hesitation, they were just like saying yes and totally stoked about doing the re-release and helping us out in any way possible. So yeah, they're fantastic to work with.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know they were involved with the re-release. Okay, before I ask the last question, is there anything you'd like to plug? It could be about you, it could be about a friend, or it could be about both.
I don't think I have anything to plug.
I mean, we have the shows in September. September 6th, I believe, is Boston. September 7th is New York. And then we're doing a small fest in Philadelphia through this collective called 4333. Chase from this top shelf band called Sweet Pill is putting on this fest, and we're playing the 29th. Yeah, and then I guess we're playing fest. So yeah, I guess those are all our plugs. Other than that, I don't know. Start a band, play with some friends. It's the best thing ever.
The truth.
Anyone who's listening doesn't play, so don't hesitate.
If you guys start jamming around and come up with some new songs, would you be down to put out like some new music?
I think so.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I think so.
Just go to Tony's mom's house and just record another album.
That's exactly what we're doing. Well, maybe not recording an album, but yeah, at least.
Yeah.
All right, you guys will have to answer this separately if you want. Last question. What scene ethics do you hold on to this day?
I feel like in general with music and DIY, it's like the what you put in is what you get out of it. And also to that degree, just be kind to other touring bands and everything, because it always comes full circle. And that like really helps to the success of a band. So that's what I would say. Don't be a dick.
Yeah, exactly. Be kind. Don't be a dick. I mean, a lot of people that we've met touring over the years are still really good friends. We've been lucky enough to keep those friendships. So yeah, just don't be a dick.